Okay, very good. I want to introduce everybody to Scott Johnston. He wrote the book Campus what? And please describe your book.
Campusland.
Campusland. Okay, very good. And it's kind of like a representation or a fictional portrayal of your time where?
Well, it wasn't really my time. My time was in the early 80s. It's more about the current cultural climate on college campuses. And it largely resembles Yale, but I didn't call it Yale in the novel because I didn't, two reasons really. Number one, if I'd called it Yale, I would have had to been accurate about 100% accurate about every Yale detail in there. And I didn't want to be beholden to that, although it's pretty close.
Yeah, no, I understand. I was at UConn. I knew what was going on at Yale, so I understand, yes. Okay.
And the other reason is that I didn't want people to think this is, what's going on culturally is just a function of Yale. It's really happening at just about every college. So I decided to call the college something else.
No, it was good. But I found it interesting as I was reading. It was kind of, it's like I went off to college to get away from that. And I don't know whether that makes sense or not, but it's like I wanted to study chemistry and stuff like that or whatever else. I kind of rejected it and stuff like that. So that's things. So please describe your experience in the prep school first thing, because I did it, as I said, I did an interview with a bunch thinking, because one of my favorite movies from years ago was Goodbye, Mr. Chips, both versions. And so in a way I thought myself, because I was a guy that kind of had distant parents and such like that, it would be kind of cool to go in and thing where I thought I might fit in more. So please describe your prep things and when you started and where you went, such like that, just for some background.
I went to Milton, which is a boarding school not far from Boston, and very rigorous. I'm a big believer in boarding schools. I think, when I got to Yale, the kids who'd gone away to high school were far more self-possessed and just comfortable in their own skin and comfortable with being away from home than the kids who had not gone away to school.
Sure, I understand.
Took the latter probably 6 months to catch up. So, Milton is a very traditional, or was a very traditional New England leafy boarding school. Traditionally a Harvard feeder. If you went back to the 1930s, probably 90% of the class would have gone to Harvard. And then the remaining 10% would have gone to Yale, Princeton, and maybe one guy went to Middlebury.
Yeah, is that northwest of Boston? Where are the towns nearby?
A little south.
Oh, a little south. Okay, cool. Okay, I understand.
And it's like most of the New England boarding schools, it's hopelessly woke now.
Right. Yes, I understand. It's like I have pet peeves about, because I got very weird interviews for the National Association of Independent Schools, thinking I did really, really well, and then they.
Yeah, the NAIS is driving a lot of this awfulness.
Yeah, I know, but it was incredibly weird because the chemistry department people, the science people were interviewing me. I think thought it went really, really well, but then it freaked out, and I was dismissed. And so it's like weird. I thought they wanted rigor regarding chemistry instruction at high school thing, because I really wanted to teach it properly. So, okay, so go ahead. So what, did you sort of major in college prep there, or did you kind of have preferences regarding courses or anything?
I was very focused on getting into a good college. So I worked pretty hard, but I also had a lot of fun. Dormitory life when you're, 15, 16, 17 is, can be an intense and very fun experience. What can I say? It was a good school. I played a lot of sports. I did a lot of extracurriculars. I studied hard. I goofed off a bit. I did a little bit of everything, but it all worked out, and got into Yale, which was nice, and went from there.
So one thing you mentioned before the chat, you mentioned your dad went there. What describe his experience and his connections to the school
Yeah.
and how that fit? Because the legacy thing is a pretty big thing at Yale and some of the other Ivies.
So yeah, you're talking about Yale now, not Milton.
I'll come back to the Milton, but I just was curious about your dad's experience. Did he go to prep school also?
No, he
Okay.
was from a very sort of almost lower middle class family in Memphis, Tennessee, and went to a public high school, Memphis Central High, which interestingly now is almost 100% black, and graduated first in his class there. And, it was quite a novel thing for someone from his background and from Memphis Central High to go to an Ivy League school. He was also a very good golfer. He shot a 58.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. I understand.
In high school, he shot a 58 on a local municipal course.
Well, no wonder Yale wanted him. Yes, I understand. That's
He
cool.
was actually not a recruit. He did play on the Yale golf team, but he was not recruited for sports.
No, that's not the point. I just no wonder they wanted him because it was a stereotype in my family, particularly my father's side of the family. So in case it's just weird.
So he had a lifelong love of Yale. He had a great experience.
It was a very different school back when he went there. Just like Swarthmore was too for my dad and my mother. Both of my parents went to Swarthmore College, so it's like their things, but they had relatives that went to Princeton and other places. Even Princeton was recommended to me, and my dad talked about Yale because his father went there 1902, 1903, because he got his bachelor's in engineering and then stayed for, I think it started with a BS and a BA in engineering, then it had a BS, which is an extra year. And then he went off to work as a mining engineer, and then he went back to go to medical school in Nebraska. So, but then he ended up living in New London, which of course isn't far from New Haven. So where did you grow up then?
Manhattan.
Oh, okay. So lower or upper or whatever. I visited there often. I went to college in Westchester County. So
Upper East Side.
Oh, okay, very nice. Okay. What did your dad do as a business or whatever?
He worked for the same company for his entire life until he died sort of young. He died at 66. So he's still working for the same company that he joined right out of Yale, a company called Scudder, Stevens and Clark, which is an investment management company. And he eventually became the president.
Wow, cool.
Great career.
So did he graduate from Yale in business, a business major, or what was his major there?
He had a BS. You can't major in business at Yale. He had a Bachelor of Science. I forget what his actual major was. He was not a Bachelor of Arts.
It wasn't a bachelor. Was it in mathematics or something related to numbers?
Yeah, I can't remember, honestly, what his major was. But he was Phi Beta Kappa, which is pretty, rarefied air.
Yes, I understand.
I did. But he was so happy when I went, because my two older brothers went to Harvard, and my father valued his Yale experience so much.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, I grew up with Swarthmore graduates as my parents in Swarthmore, and it was funny that the Swarthmore College faculty and students looked down on the Ivies as if they were inferior, which struck me as quite weird. But they were a lot more pious than whatever else, and more self-righteous than the lower echelon of I don't know how to put it, a rarefied air elite or whatever that Swarthmore had too. So Swarthmore is kind of in the same boat as Oberlin, Middlebury, and some other schools. So they kind of feel superior, or at least they did. I don't know whether it's true or not, but whatever. But okay, go ahead. You were saying so you went to Milton then, and so basically, did you start in 8th grade there or 9th grade? What did you go to public before then when you were in Manhattan? Or
No, I went to a private school in New York City called it's called Buckley. It's all boys,
okay,
and I didn't go away to boarding school till 10th grade.
well that's interesting because the Buckley School was the one my father went to in New London, Connecticut, and he finished there in 1937 or 1938, then went to Swarthmore, but then had a gap there or something. I'm not certain as to the gap, but I don't know whether that Buckley related to London as compared to the Buckley in Manhattan. But
I don't think they're related.
huh?
They're not related.
Was it Buckley with an Ley?
Yes, but I'm quite sure that Buckley in New York City is not related to any other school.
Oh, okay. Well, it must be another branch, distant relatives or something that started a different one. But in any case, that's quite interesting. That's so you started then in 10th grade then. So and so obviously Yale isn't that far from Manhattan. So you took the train back and forth regularly during the weekends or something?
No, Yale was such a fun place to be when I was there that, kids didn't tend to leave campus that much. Manhattan was an hour and a half away. I only recall going there with classmates for fun one time in 4 years. It just wasn't a draw for us.
Yeah, I understand. It's a very, the houses and the other things there and such like that. So, but okay, let's get to your book now. I think that listeners or whatever got an understanding for where you're coming at with this, or watchers. So your book, first, one of the things based on your background and whatever, when you decided to think about writing it, what was the point? What did you want to do with it?
Well, there's a little bit of a backstory because I'm not a writer by any sort of training.
Yes, okay, that's cool. I kind of understand why you wrote it, but this is about you today. This is about you because of the way I've been writing my own book, but I don't plan on ever writing it because it'd be too depressing. But in any case, go ahead.
Well, I always knew I could write a sentence and a paragraph. And when I ran an investment fund, I wrote very good investment letters. But the idea of writing a novel was quite foreign. So I was at a free speech conference at Yale like 4 or 5 years ago. And mind you, there were a bunch of speakers. It was like a symposium. And it took place, it was a one-day thing. And mind you, Yale did not sponsor it in any way. Yale's bag these days.
Well, was it connected to the William F. Buckley thing they have there or not?
Yeah, they were the sponsors. So it was physically,
okay, that's cool. Okay.
Physically on Yale's campus, but not in any real way affiliated with Yale.
So was it officially their seminar, whatever, one of their seminars? Because I used to subscribe to the National Review. I started subscribing to the National Review in 1974 when I found I was the only Republican in my family. I had 2 magazines, the American Spectator and National Review. I found copies of those on the train going to Philadelphia, and then I started reading them and subscribed to them. So yes. So William F. Buckley Jr. liked to talk about Yale a lot in his essays.
Well, to answer your question, it was sponsored by the Buckley Society, which is a conservative group that exists in and around Yale and is loosely affiliated with Yale, but it's not, well, Yale had nothing to do with putting this conference on is the salient point here.
No, I understand because didn't William F. Buckley kind of make the distance from him because of his book, Con Man at Yale as well?
Yeah, well, that was decades ago, but yeah.
Yeah, but he made a lot of people angry at him. So
well, the Buckley Society was founded long after Buckley died.
Yeah, okay. I understand. Okay.
So we were at this conference and 200 undergrads showed up and tried to physically shut the conference down. They had signs screaming and they tried to bust into the room and everything.
What year was this?
This was probably 5 years ago.
Oh, okay, okay, yes, okay, all right.
And I remember walking out. They were kept out of our sort of lecture hall by campus police, and we were instructed to leave by a certain set of doors. And I remember I was the first one through the doors with Roger Kimball, the well-known journalist. And
Yeah, I subscribe to him. I'm a follower of his on Twitter. Yes, but
he's great. So anyway, we were the first ones through the double doors, and there were 200 students out there screaming at us. Someone was spit on, and they were really angry. And they obviously didn't really recognize the irony of using their free speech rights to try and shut down a conference on free speech.
well, do they really care? Because I thought for them it was all free. We want to be able to speak freely, but not anybody disagrees with us.
Right, it's free speech for me, but not for thee.
Yes, right.
So
there you go. You see Quaker language. Quaker, thee, thou, thou. That's what I grew up with. Thee, thou, thus. So go ahead.
Well, walking through this phalanx of angry kids, I remember thinking, why hasn't any satirist taken this on in the form of a satiric novel? Just this milieu of craziness on campuses these days, like ideological insanity.
Well,
And
based on what I've already read, you really are doing it pretty well with F, the EPH faculty member and stuff like that. So it's like, and some of the students.
Well, you're jumping ahead of me a little bit.
That's fine.
But it did not occur to me at that time that that I should be that person, because it had never occurred to me to try and write something like a novel. It's a bit of a mystery to me how to write a novel, honestly. So then I went to fast forward a few months to my college reunion, and I was holding, and I worked this scene into the novel. I was holding a door open for an undergraduate, and she stopped dead in her tracks, and she wouldn't go through the door, and she accused me of patriarchy for holding the door open for her. And
well, can I give an offshoot for that? Can I describe something to you real quickly? In college, I was dating a girl a lot like that. This was in 1976 or 77. We had gone out for dinner or something like that, or maybe just something. But in any case, I was taking her back to her dorm. I opened the door. I tried to open the door for her, and she said, "No, I'll get it myself." And this was 1977. So
she was doing you a favor, because you knew right then and there you probably
yeah, I never asked her for a date again. But in any case, that was the weirdest experience. I never thought of it as the King's College at Briarcliff Manor, New York. I don't know whether you've heard of it or not, but it's in Manhattan now, but run by Campus Crusade. But basically, I never experienced that at a Christian college. It was like things to get treated because I had the gall to open the door for somebody I just had a nice time with. So go ahead. You're saying?
So when we had a standoff, and a minute where neither of us walked through the door, and I think boredom overcame her principles sooner than a desire for another drink overcame mine, and she walked through the door first.
Good for you. Okay.
But I literally at that moment I said, I'm going to figure out how to write a damn novel. I just
Okay.
no one else is doing it, and this novel needs to be written.
Yeah.
So then I set about figuring out how to write a novel, and did. It took me about 6 months, and it became a bestseller. It got to number 15 on Amazon, and it's going to be a TV series.
Well, for me, I thought I would get through it a lot quicker, but unfortunately, it was almost like I lived through this years before. But of course, it's a lot more examples of what I lived through. So I will eventually finish it, but it's like I got enough to chat with you about it. So I hope that makes sense or not, but just in the first few chapters, it gets laid on very thick. So yes, okay. So in any case, So when was it officially published, and when did it first get let out and such like that?
We got about 2 years ago.
Okay.
St. Martin's Press published it, and which was somewhat of a miraculous thing, because once I wrote it, I set about figuring out how to get it published, and every source I could find basically said you're dreaming if you're a first-time novelist. But I actually got a publisher, one of the major ones, very quickly, which was nice, and they want another one, so I'm trying to give them another one.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll come up with one eventually, but it's like, I feel like in some respects, because part of the way I think I have Asperger's, and part of the way I think is trying to make sense of the world that I grew up in from my own background. As I was saying, my grandfather going to Yale, my grandmother going to Wellesley, my father going to Swarthmore, my uncles going to Penn or Oberlin, and my aunt going to Wellesley also, just like her mother did. And my dad told me he was considering going to WPI in Worcester, Massachusetts, because he liked engineering, and that was a more technical school, but then he decided on Swarthmore. But he didn't want to go so close. And I understand, but I enjoyed my time at UConn very much. But the thing, I never even considered Yale, because the area of chemistry I'm in, Yale doesn't have that area of chemistry. So it's like, I didn't want to go to a place that I couldn't study what I wanted in plastics, polymer chemistry, polymer science. So I was at UConn. So, but in any case, that's my area, is chemistry, and that's what it thinks. But the chemistry department, I'm sure, at Yale is still pretty good. So
I certainly never graced its doors, or its hallways. So,
yeah, it's very interesting. The physics, chemistry, and math department at Yale are probably very isolated from what you described, because the way they worked my son through it at Yale graduate school, he wouldn't have time for all the nonsense that you describe in your book of what students would do. It's like, he had some students in his classes that he kind of acted as a TA or helped lecture or something, but his experience with, so in a way, it skipped two generations. My grandfather went to Yale, and then my son went there to get his graduate degree. So basically, he got another area of chemistry than mine. So that was more in line with what he did at WPI. So, but then he did a postdoc at Columbia. So in some respects, it's like it reverted back to the Ivies. So back to your experience again then. So what was the response to your book? And then I want to kind of get off topic about the thing and talk about sort of conservatism and basically what your feelings for what current events, and then get into the group I'm kind of involved with as a kind of kibitzer and looking in on of the Russia sleuth guys. You started following me for an interesting reason, so that's why we got in touch. But so basically, do you have any other comments about your book that you want to kind of highlight and tell people about?
Well, I mean, it's been an incredibly fun experience. It's led to dozens of speaking engagements, and I was on Tucker Carlson twice. Well,
your face looks familiar because I used to watch him a lot. So yeah, but yeah, go ahead. You were saying, sorry.
I was on Eric Metaxas's podcast a couple of times. You probably know him.
Yeah, I heard of him, and I got his book Miracles. So yeah, okay.
He's actually a fellow Yale grad, it's just, it's been kind of a fun ride because it struck a chord with a lot of people.
Was he in your class? Was he in your class or in the neighborhood of when you were there?
2 years behind me.
Oh, okay, because he described his Yale experience as being very similar to what you described too, but he kind of kept his distance from it.
And I kind of hope that I am extremely critical of Yale right now, and extremely critical of colleges in general. But I hope in Campusland some of the love that I had from my experience also comes through.
Well,
Because
that's obvious because I understood why you read it when you're writing it, because in some respects you want to make sense of your own experiences and make sense of the changes that have occurred with it. Because I even have my own pet peeves about what happened to my alma mater and the directions this moved towards wokeness and such like that too, which I find appalling. But I view it a different way of going to heterodoxy from good theology to bad theology. But in some respects, it's no different from Yale because Yale was started by Congregationalist Puritans back in the 1700s, and then they got into Unitarian stuff, and then that's described in William F. Buckley's book. So the trends there. So, but yes.
I'm not an optimist, honestly. I get asked a lot if people will say, well, surely this is a pendulum that's going to swing back, but sometimes a pendulum is a wrecking ball. And I believe the cancer at places like Yale and frankly every other elite college in America is so deeply ingrained and spread through all the vital organs that no amount of chemotherapy is going to cure the patient. I think I think we need to reinvent education entirely outside the traditional constructs.
Well, the way you describe the people that go there, even more so than our generation. Well, I was class of 79. You're probably class of 84. Is that correct?
82.
82. Okay, so you're not that different in age. But the thing is, for me, the younger generation, if they grow up with parents that are more selfish and let them on their own, whatever else, they're even more going off in weird directions or whatever else because it kind of feeds on itself. So in a way, yes, I'm not surprised. Yes. So, but I don't think that there's a bad thing about exposing it. That's part of the thing of getting things to possibly change at least a little, so that parents will decide I'd rather send my kids to the local public school because then at least I know what they're learning there.
Well, I decided to use humor as my particular.
No, it's fine. I understand. Yeah.
You can write 1,000 letters to editors, but that may not have the same impact as something that engages with people because it's funny. And Campusland hopefully will make you laugh out loud 4 or 5 times before you get to the end.
Well, one thing I am curious about because we got connected through Twitter and such like that, and I think I never heard of you until you followed me because I like to look and see who follows me and see what their background is. So it's kind of cool. But what made you interested in following me? What comment did I make that was pithy and whatever else that made you interested?
Going back a ways, I don't remember what it was.
Oh, okay. Well, I try and go out there and entertain and poke people. But in any case, that's. But I delete my tweets every 2 or 3 weeks because I use my real name. So it's like I'm not ashamed of my positions, but in case I just wanted to delete them, at least while I was employed as a chemistry teacher, so that it couldn't be used against me, obviously. So in case, but
well, you're brave to tweet as a teacher. I'm not really cancelable, so I don't tweet. I don't delete a damn thing.
Some people look at my resume, I'm on LinkedIn too, and think, oh, he's been all these different places. He can't keep a job. Well, no, I've always gone different places because I'm there for the students. I'm not there to please the administration or to avoid pissing people off. Because with Asperger's, if you grow up in a situation where basically you piss everybody off just by being yourself, and they want to change, they think you're broken and want to fix it. So, I got used to it. So it wasn't as if things, but I always felt, and I feel very strongly about this, if someone is competent and does his job well, and people like what they're learning from me as a chemistry teacher, I didn't expect to go into chemistry teaching for that matter. But my last teaching position was at a place which is kind of like a Ivy Junior, of kind of like a less elite group of elites that think they're elite. I don't know whether that makes sense. Does that make sense to you or not? So, sure. Because they had a sports program that was NCAA #1 and everything, and basically they're thoroughly woke, but they hired me anyway. They had a need, and then I started annoying people from the first faculty meeting because I asked the inopportune question saying, well, why are you doing it this way? It doesn't make any sense. But they didn't want to hear that. So yes, that's related to what you're talking about, is that when someone comes in and puts up a contrary point of view, they're so convinced they're right, they're not going to change. So yes.
By the way, I was an adjunct for a while myself. I enjoyed teaching a great deal.
Where?
Yale also.
Oh, well, did you get good responses or whatever? Was it part of the grad school so you could do it without thing, or how did it work regarding your students?
I taught undergrads.
How did it work regarding students then?
How did it work with what? Sorry?
Regarding your students, how did that work and what did you teach? Was it business oriented or what?
Yes, it was a course meant to contrast theoretical finance and economics with actual real world finance and economics, and how they're really very different from each other, and all these theories that won Nobel Prizes completely fall apart in the real world. And then I brought in some top level guys from Wall Street towards the end of the class to explain how things really work. That
sounds fun. That's cool. Yeah, because the kind of students you would get that would sign up for that class would not be the woke fighting ones. They'd be ones.
Exactly right. And I taught it in sort of the 04, 05, 06 era, which was, not as crazy as now.
Well, just because it'll help the conversation. My experience in teaching chemistry is teaching general and organic. Organic I taught twice, but mainly general chemistry. And you get everybody, whatever else, that don't understand why they have to take chemistry to be a biology major or all sorts of other nonsense like that. So it's like they always complain, whine, and all sorts of stuff. So it's like I for myself can't imagine doing it at Yale, because with students who are entitled, and basically on you described in your book about people getting help writing their entrance essay to get into this school. What's the name of the school there? Devon University?
Devon, right.
Yeah. They get someone else to write their entrance essay. That kind of describes and the entitledness of some of my students had in certain places, because I had the gall to ask them to read the book and work homework problems to learn chemistry. And some tried to cheat and then found it didn't work with me because I wasn't stupid. So I designed tests to make it impossible to cheat. They'd look stupid if they tried, and it worked. So do you have any comment about what I said regarding that?
I don't.
Well, no, because I'm more related to your students, because your students wouldn't be the ones that they really want to learn from you, which in a way is a great blessing for you to get to be able to teach that way. So,
I taught a seminar.
Whatever. Yeah, okay.
By design, it was limited to 18 students. And I would get probably 200 applications, and they'd have to write essays for why they wanted to be admitted to the course. So I got to cherry pick who I wanted in my class. So it worked out pretty well.
And the people that got the winning essays probably didn't get someone else to do it for them, right?
I'm pretty sure they did not. They were already most of them were already juniors and seniors at Yale.
No, that's fine. So what was your major then there?
I started out as an economics major. I dropped it because I quickly realized that it was, at least the way it was taught at Yale, was utterly irrelevant to thing in the real world. And so I lost interest in it pretty quickly and just switched to political science.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So, all right. So let's get back to one of the things that came up. I'm kind of curious about this related to what you're doing now and what you're doing regarding protesting, whatever. What was the turning point in your life, in your family, and whatever else that got you to switch to more a liberal mindset to a more conservative one regarding understanding at least the foundations of Yale and the other, what they were trying to do versus what's happened now, to get the contrast? What kind of changed your mind? Because I know what happened with me. It's very distinct, but go ahead.
We'd have to go back pretty far to before Yale. ever since I was a little kid, I was always a bit of a contrarian. And
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, that makes sense. Okay.
I remember growing up, in my class at Buckley in New York City, I was the only Yankee fan. And part of it was a reaction to the fact that every other kid was a Mets fan. Now you got to realize this is the late 60s.
No, I understand. I went to see the Phillies play the Mets twice when I was in college. So the double header. So yeah.
Well, the relevant point is the Yankees were awful then. They were terrible. And the Mets were the darling of New York's darling. They won the 69 series. So I never could go along with the crowd. I don't know why. And then I did read a book in high school that says,
did you like Mickey Mantle? You probably like Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth then.
I love Mickey Mantle and Bobby Mercer. Those guys are my heroes.
Well, that's why you're a Yankee fan. Okay, go ahead.
And then, I would say as far as conservative philosophy, it was a bit of a pile of mush flowing around my head until I read a book in, I think it was the summer between high school and college. I read a book called The Time for Truth, which was written by William E. Simon, who was the energy czar under.
Yeah, I remember. I remember the guy. I never read the book, but I remember the title.
He was a treasury. He was secretary of the Treasury at one point. He was also the energy czar, and he was a Wall Street guy. And he just wrote this book. And in the 70s, conservatism was nowhere. This is the days before Rush Limbaugh. Right? I mean, conservatism then was, sort of William F. Buckley opining in polysyllabic words, on his PBS show on Sundays. That was conservative.
Well, I like this show. I liked Firing Line, going all the way back to Gore Vidal. I remember watching that. Yeah.
You and 30 other people.
No, but it's still fun to watch. I saw some clips of it on YouTube.
But there was nothing populist about it at all.
No.
Until Reagan came along. So for me, that book was, it kind of crystallized a whole lot of things that I'd kind of been thinking anyway. And I remember thinking that, oh yeah, that explains that. And I even in high school, I actually started a conservative newspaper too. So I was
brave guy. Cool. All right. Well, how'd that go over with some of the woke faculty at Buckley?
Oh no, this is at Milton.
Milton. Well, how'd it go with the woke faculty at Milton?
Well, this is pretty cool. We used to print copies and put them in the mailboxes for every faculty member. And they, I remember one guy pushed back on one piece we wrote and wrote a public statement under the name Publius. But,
did it affect your grades?
No, this is before all that. I mean,
no, good. I'm glad it didn't affect your grades, because I kept running into that where I would give it a contrary opinion when I went off to college in my own area, and I was surprised that people were grading me based on how much they liked me. It had nothing to do with what I do about it.
It's an important point to understand about that era, the 70s, 80s, and probably into the 90s. That schools like Ivy League schools and the prep schools and so forth, they were all very liberal places in terms of the prevailing.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, right.
But they didn't penalize. They welcomed differing viewpoints, and they certainly didn't penalize you for presenting a different viewpoint. And that is really something that's changed. If you present a conservative viewpoint in a classroom today, almost anywhere in America, you're taking a real chance with your grade.
What did you consider any other colleges other than Yale when you were originally looking at, or was Yale always where you wanted to be?
Oh, I applied to a lot of places because I didn't know I'd get in. So, I applied all over the place. I
thought because your dad was Yale that you were kind of a legacy that you thought you had it put in the door.
Well, I got in a bunch of places.
Okay, cool.
And but Yale was the right pick.
No, I understand, because in some respects, part of my decision was, for example, I knew the faculty in the sciences at Swarthmore were pretty good. And I knew they were good at Princeton and other things that would appreciate my intellect and such like that. but I was more concerned with the students because me being the country and the way I was wouldn't go over well at all. It's like, but even when I went off to the King's College, which is a conservative Christian school, the second year I was there, I got started calling me a narc because they thought if I found them out, I would have reported them because they could get expelled. I would have reported them for their drug abuse or something like that, which is true. I would have, but I was never aware of it. But I didn't want to be around it. That's why I went to the Christian college that I went to. I didn't want to be around promiscuous drunkenness, whatever. I was kind of fleeing my own temptation of whatever because my dad was an angry drunk and I didn't want anything to do with it.
Well, I was sort of embracing my temptations.
Well, we each learn different ways, Scott. It's weird. Our lives, we grow up in different ways in different times. I just knew that I was so angry and bitter and whatever else that if I hadn't become a Christian when I was 15, I would have, but even those circumstances, I would have been dead because I would not have been able to handle any life past that point. So it was a total distinction, a change of heart when I became a Christian in 1973. But and it was all because God helped me find my dog. I was an angry agnostic that was very intelligent and everything else. And I lost my dog, which is a rat terrier. They're wonderful dogs, very friendly, whatever. It's like my only friend. And I lost it in another town way away. And we were going out at night and I was going over a bridge and saying, God, if you're real, I have no idea if you're real or not. I didn't want anything to do with my parents' Unitarian Universalist / Quaker crap that didn't affect their behavior. So basically I was kind of desperate saying, God, if you're real, help me find my dog. Well, our family, my mom or dad took me back to the town again, and he was just sitting there right beside the road the next day. And then 5 months later, after my parents separated, then I saw the movie Time to Run in 1973, which is a Billy Graham movie. And the end message really blew me away. So that was the beginning of my new life. But that's what but then I got involved with seeing on the train because I like to go to the Franklin Institute regularly on weekends, on Saturdays for mini courses and such like that. So on the train, I found an American Spectator and National Review and was talking to somebody, I think it was a faculty at Penn, and he recommended the National Review, but I found the American Spectator. And so that's kind of, wow, I can be a conservative and a Christian too. So it's like, wow, that's cool. Did you, in the 70s, did you ever read the American Spectator?
I did. My oldest brother was a big fan. And was friends with the editor whose name I'm trying to come up with.
Emmett Tyrell.
Yes, my oldest brother and Tyrell were friends, and I met him on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So are you so you have multiple conservatives in your family then? Is your family relatively conservative too? Your father also?
I have 3 brothers and they're all conservative, yes.
So was their transition similar to yours? And let me get more specific regarding your transition. What was the thing that kind of changed your mind regarding turning away from?
Well, nothing. I told you, I didn't transition from anything. I kind of.
Oh, you were contrarian from the beginning. Okay, I understand. Okay.
From the beginning, it just sort of crystallized over time more completely. My oldest brother was actually a liberal right up until he voted for McGovern when he was at Harvard. And then he kind of woke up. And then he's much older. He's 9 years older than I am. My second oldest brother, he's always been reasonably conservative. And my younger brother wrote a high school paper that I stumbled on defending this. No, maybe it was a paper when he was in college defending the Sandinistas. And he very much grew out of that. In fact, he grew out of it on a school trip to Berlin. This is Berlin in the Cold War years, where somehow they had access to East Berlin. So they took a bus across the border from West Berlin, which all of its vibrancy and color, this drab, gray, depressing existence on the other side in East Berlin. And he was self-aware enough to sort of put 2 and 2 together and say, hey, maybe this isn't all it's built up to be.
So what year was that then?
That would have been, I'm guessing, 80, 81, 82, somewhere in there. So that turned him around completely. He's very conservative now.
Oh, okay. That's cool. One thing in your circle of friends in Manhattan and such like that, and I know you're kind of at a different status level or whatever, but are you still in the business you are as well as being an author, or are you sort of retired from what you were doing before?
I'm semi-retired. I still work a bit for a private equity company, but I'm going to call it semi-retired. I do a lot of blogging at something called The Naked Dollar, and
Okay.
I'm working on another novel.
Well, basically, I turned 64 and with a PhD and 30 years teaching experience, and also I have to agree with diversity deep dive things now, write an essay regarding things, and I blew some applications out of the water when I went for an interview when I said, no, I treat my students as individuals, and that didn't go over very well. So basically, I'm kind of retired, that I'm too expensive or too educated, so they could get someone to adjunct teach or temporary teach for a lot cheaper than me. So I kind of fizzled out last year. But I have a saying, chemists never retire, they just reach equilibrium. So I'm trying to find my equilibrium. So I hope that makes sense regarding what equilibrium is. You know what equilibrium is?
I'm familiar with the word, sure.
Well, it's like it's going back and forth. It's like you come to medium. It's like a chemical reaction could go one direction or the other, and equilibrium is in the middle. So, but chemists reach equilibrium. We don't retire, so to speak. So it's like we just change gears. So it is. All right. Well, let's get back to more current things about other things, particularly related to the group that I'm kind of helping out with, whatever. One thing I want to talk about, because Justice Kavanaugh went through his own kind of thing regarding the Ringer, regarding how he was treated and such like that. But he also had a prep school background and then went to, I think, Georgetown. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is part of what he got stuck with was his antics in high school. And one thing I wanted to ask you is all the antics that go on in these Ivy schools or whatever else, are they kind of set up in a way so that they remain part of the crowd, that if anybody sticks out, they can bring up the past and then say, this is what you really are like, and so we shouldn't listen to you now, even though they grew up and these other people didn't?
Well, Brett Kavanaugh didn't go to Georgetown. He went to Yale. He was in my fraternity.
Oh, he went to Yale. Okay. Then you know him more than I thought. Okay, that's cool. Okay.
And I should point out, my fraternity, both Bushes, Justice Kavanaugh, and Ron DeSantis as grads.
So what fraternity is that? Just so.
Deke.
Oh, okay. But well, then what year was he at Yale then? When did he finish at Yale? Was he Yale undergraduate?
He was. I believe he was class of 88.
Okay, so he followed you a little. So did it really surprise you that they brought up his prep things because he was, ever since Yale, he was Roman Catholic and very committed Roman Catholic. But did it surprise you that people have brought up the antics from high school?
If you understand liberalism and how it works these days.
No, I really do. So that's why I'm asking you.
I'm speaking rhetorically.
Yes, okay.
And if you understand how the Democrat Party works these days, none of this should be a surprise. How he's treated, none of it should be a surprise. I will add that how he was treated is one of the most reprehensible things that has ever happened in U.S. politics. Everything brought up about him was crap. My wife actually knew Christine Blasey Ford in high school, and she's crazy. Her family basically disowned her. They wouldn't show up at the hearings. The stories that came out of Yale were nonsense. I knew it was crap just by my own experiences to know, because it was so transparently thing of they couldn't get anything from him in college. They had to go all the way back to high school to find dirt on him, and made stuff up about that too. So it's almost like the only dirt they found on him was he got drunk once in high school. So, Well,
What?
they accused him of gang rape, which is
No. The only thing that was real was he got drunk once in high school.
yeah, and he got drunk.
So what?
He got drunk a bunch in college too, but who doesn't?
Yeah. So what? Yeah.
The girl from Yale who made an accusation said her literal quote was that after assessing her memories for a week, she decided something happened to her when she was passed out.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's yeah.
She said that Kavanaugh laid his genitals on her face.
No. I understand. I watched it, but I understood what he was going through. But in a way, it didn't surprise me at all that they were trashing him because he was such a threat. The liberal thing regarding the Supreme Court.
Well, and also what an exemplary life he has led.
Yes,
right?
of course. Yeah, right. Okay.
No, it's shameful. And I have some liberal friends who got sucked into it. Like, well, what about this and that? I'm like, wait a minute. Seriously, you're going back to his high school yearbook?
Right. Well, the thing that was fabulous was that he took he was so organized. He kept his own diary. So in a way, it's like it kind of made me smile too when I heard about that.
Proved his innocence too.
Yeah, right. Okay. So based on your experience in New York City, then what was your initial thoughts regarding Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump, believe it or not, I think was a contrarian at Penn, probably.
So I did not vote for Trump in the primaries.
Well, I voted for Cruz, so I'm not. I voted for Cruz. Maybe you voted for Cruz too. Well, who do you vote for in the primary?
I also voted for Cruz. I know Cruz a little bit, I trusted the fact that Cruz was a true conservative. I did not trust that about Donald Trump. And the odd thing is, Trump became a very conservative as president. I mean, just policy-wise, he was fantastic as president. Maybe as good as Reagan even.
His eyes opened up because I was aware of him because I went to college in Westchester County, so I was aware of him all along. But he changed too. He had his own epiphany later on in life as well. So yes.
Sure. I don't know that he had an epiphany. Here's my take on it. He's a deal maker, and
of course, yes.
Right. He came to the White House prepared to make deals with the Democrats. But from day one, the Democrats drew a hardline position, like, we're not going to do anything with you because that's just, we think you're so awful that even doing a deal that we agree with you taints us. So Trump said, okay, you're not going to do deals with me. And I think there's a lot of bipartisan stuff that could have happened if the Democrats had played along. But they didn't. So I think Trump decided, if you're not going to do that, I'm going to do what I can do. And what he could do was a lot of fairly conservative stuff. And I will say, I think he's not a great human being. I think he's deeply flawed. And he suffered from an awful lack of discipline, particularly where tweeting was concerned and just his personal demeanor. And, he's a New York real estate guy. Those guys are not nice people generally.
Well, just from my perspective, I understand it because he spent very little money on his first campaign. He didn't even think he was going to win. So it's almost like he was working on earned media. And all my campaigns that I had, I went in for a specific point, even had to do with the Iran-Contras that kind of got me involved in the first place. But that's another story. But the thing is, I understood he was trying to earn media. And part of the way he earned media was to piss people off or poke holes in things. So in some respects, I understood the acting and what was going on regarding that. But he was a substantive guy that did things overall legally regarding following the law regarding all his real estate things. If he hadn't have done it, if he hadn't have done it that way, they would have gotten much more on him than just what they said they were gonna, but they didn't.
I'm actually surprised that it now appears he's an incredibly clean guy. I assume they did something. He's a New York real estate guy. They haven't found anything. And all my liberal friends are like, he's not releasing his taxes. What's he hiding? I'm like, wait, what do you think you're going to find there? He's been audited for like the past 40 years. What do you think you're going to find that the IRS hasn't already tried to find? And
right, of course. And if he's been audited so long, it's like, yes. And New York City with the mob and everything else, it's like he was kind of dancing along the line. But I drove a cab in Philadelphia and I had to deal with mob people there. But it's like, if you were genuine with them, they didn't bother you. So they had more problem with hypocrites that would take money from them and then on the other hand, stab them in public. So it's not, I never got the feeling he was that kind of person, but in any case, but one of the things regarding what I'm involved in now, and I wanted to kind of ask you about, was this, the Durham thing, and kind of even the 1/6 fanaticism of the DOJ in DC circuit. A lot of these prosecutors or whatever else, they're taking the shrill woke crap of making insurrection out of a protest when they didn't care at all about what was going on in June of 2020 in Washington, DC. Do you think that is sort of typical regarding the Ivy League, kind of like total double standard regarding if a total double standard regarding that? Because everything about what happened on the 6th of January, even him contesting election results, he was following the constitutional process to do it again and again. But
the old joke is if the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all.
But that comes out clearly in your book too. Yes.
Yeah, of course, there's a double standard. I mean, the way they handled the George Floyd riots versus the way they handled the January 6th riot. It's awful what those people did. They should not have gone to the Capitol. Trump could have been, if he's at fault, he should have come out sooner that day against it. I should make clear, I wish Trump would, I desperately hope he does not run again. I thought he was an incredibly effective president. The nation was arguably in as good a shape as we've ever been in, running into entering COVID.
I think that'll come out clearly in the primary because he'll decide and then he'll endorse whoever wins.
Well, he should be king. He should play kingmaker. The reason I don't want to run again is because we have Ron DeSantis, who is Donald Trump with discipline.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing about DeSantis is he wants to be governor for another things and wants to wait for longer. So, and he has no intention of going. This is what I heard recently of someone who knew him. Oh, it was Michael Caputo saying that Michael Caputo doesn't think that DeSantis will go against him because he's got many years ahead, and so he doesn't anticipate at all. Because, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, I have no concerns about it because I think it's more concerned he's not going to decide until the Republicans take control of the House again. But they might even make him speaker, and he remains speaker through.
Well, I also know DeSantis, although I don't claim to be privy to his inner thoughts on running for the presidency, other than I generally know he'd like to run for it at some point. I'd like to see him preempt Trump. And because if Trump announces, it doesn't look as that great if DeSantis tries to run against him after Trump announces. In fact, I don't even think DeSantis would. But
no, I don't think he will either, because I can't imagine Connie Mack doing that against Ronald Reagan either. So Connie Mack, of course, was senator from Florida. So it's like DeSantis reminds me of Connie Mack.
But if DeSantis announced first, he could actually preempt Trump. I just hope they come to some kind of understanding. Trump, there's too much baggage that comes along with Trump.
Well, we'll see what happens, but he is no better at triggering left than anything else. And it's like now they're making themselves look more and more stupid. So whether it be Nadler trying to go after him or the New York DA and them crapping out regarding their grand jury and everything else, it's like, and 2 impeachments and everything else. It's like, but in any case, my plan is in a couple of weeks to go to the Sussman trial, just to hang in there and do reporting for the group regarding what I see going on with that. So that'll be fun. I could do that now that I'm retired. So
That'd be interesting.
so, but basically, I guess back to the original question I had is, does it really surprise you that all the activists and everything else are these woke people that go to Ivies and such like that too?
Well, that's who the Ivies want these days. They all but recruit these people. I mean, if you go to a the Yale Bowl holds almost 70,000 people. And when I was at school there, you know, we would only sell that out for the Harvard game, but we would definitely sell it out. And the Princeton game would get 50,000 or 55,000. The student section was full in most games. Now, if you go to a random Yale Brown football game, not only will there only be about 6,000 or 7,000 people there in a stadium that holds 10 times that many people, so it looks kind of pathetic, but there are 0 students. The only football game that the students go to now is the Harvard-Yale game, and oftentimes it's only so they can protest something. So that social justice warriors don't go to football games.
No, I understand. That's sad.
They don't have school spirit. In fact, they're kind of taught to hate the very school that's probably giving them a full free ride.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because you've been at Yale, whatever else, because when my son started at Yale, he was very disappointed because there wasn't an active running club for grad students. And that really surprised me because I had heard when I was going to college that they had one and such like that. So he played a role in helping to start the New Haven Road Runners again. So he was running cross country all during his time at Yale. And so as far as I know, the group is still going on. But the thing is, does that surprise you, the fact that they gave up running clubs and such like that?
No. I played, one of the great things about Yale when I was there was intramural sports. I played 13 different sports, including, by the way, baseball, like not softball, but baseball, although we also had softball. And I played full tackle football with pads and everything. These were intramural.
You play lacrosse too?
No, I did not play lacrosse. That was actually
Swarthmore's a big thing. Swarthmore's a big thing is lacrosse. So.
They didn't have intramural lacrosse. That was one of the few things they didn't have. But the point is, like, you know, something like intramural football, which was an enthusiastic part of the school then, no longer exists because, again, social justice warriors aren't interested in playing football, right? They're only interested in one thing: activism.
Well, would you explain that that's why that they see the whole rest of the country, the red areas, as deplorables and stuff like that? Because to me, I started working when I was 12 out of things that I've been working all my life. As I know Donald Trump was, his dad started him working at age 13 or something, or maybe it was 12 too, with the construction guys. So it's like he knew how to talk to those New York, New Jersey guys. So that was quite clear in his language. And that language he uses is very, very annoying to upper crust elites. It's all about style. Does that make sense too? But it's like, you know, during college, I drove a cab in Philadelphia because I needed to earn money for my college. It wasn't for fun, but I still had a great time with those guys though.
If you're suggesting that the Ivies are fully ensconced in a cultural left-wing elitism, you wowould be correct.
Okay, very good. So just to kind of sum up or whatever else, we've been talking about a lot. Have we talked enough about it, your book? Do you want to mention anything else more about it, or what your thoughts are regarding current events before we kind of end this?
Well, I'm involved in this new process now of turning the book into a TV series where, I didn't think I'd be involved at all because my understanding was that authors of books that turn into movies and TV shows are sort of not really welcomed into the process. But they seem to be bringing me in a bit, and their goal is to make it a streaming series that lasts 4 seasons, and each there's a character named Lulu in the book who's a central character, and each season would be 1 year of her college experience.
Well, one thing I'm kind of curious about, what made you choose that particular person to do the narration for the audiobook of your version?
Well, that's interesting. I actually was pretty disappointed in how that turned out, and I did choose the person who narrated it. I was surprised when St. Martin's Press let me to do the choosing. My editor and I agreed we wanted a woman because
Yeah, I was asking why, because it doesn't. Because you wrote the book, and it's like to have a woman talking through it sounds a bit.
well, there are lots of characters in the book, and some are male and some are female. But in any novel, there are men.
Oh,
and
no,
women.
no, I understand it. It's just the kind of thing where, in a way, it's like to have the woman do the whole thing, which is a bit of a surprise when it was written by you, particularly about this things. Uh, I decided not to get the audio book because I wasn't expecting that. Nothing against her personally. She has a nice voice, but it's like it just felt out of place. So
Well, you have to choose one or the other, right? And
obviously.
I find men doing women's voices a little creepy.
No, I agree. Yeah,
I
okay.
find it less creepy than women doing men's voices. So that's kind of what it came down to.
Okay.
And I listened to lots of different tapes of different women and chose this one. And I was honestly a little disappointed. She has a bit of upspeak going on, and there's certain, and when you write something, you know exactly which word in a sentence should get the emphasis, and she seemed to miss that a bunch of the time. And she pronounced Lazard Frere, Lazard Freres, things like that.
That's okay. It's nothing to worry about there. That's fine.
Well, it did. I cringed quite a bit when I finally
listened. Okay. No, I'm just saying, as an outsider, I understand you being upset about it.
I'm glad you're reading it and not listening to it. Let's put it that way.
Well, no, I like hearing it and seeing it from your perspective. Whatever else, I understand it a lot more. But as I said, it's hard going through with my background and trying to, just in my own college experience, deciding I didn't want a part of it. I decided to just, but the chemistry professors I had was from the University of Delaware and Oxford. So I wasn't deprived regarding how I did on my GREs for chemistry from the King's College. So I didn't lose out on anything, or math. I did pretty well there. So it's like I was all ready for grad school when I went off. So that's all that mattered to me anyway. So, okay. So any more comments about your book to kind of finish up? I think I've asked the questions I want. Do you have any more of me or whatever?
No.
About me.
Everyone enjoys the book. It's meant to. I'm sorry. The first few people that I knew that read it in one sitting, which I've never done with the book. So it's supposed to. I'm surprised you've been able to put it down. You're not supposed to be able to put it down. It's supposed to grab.
No. As I said, I've read three chapters, and it's like I lived through a lot of this already. Things because your use of hyperbole and everything else. I don't know how to describe it, but I came out of a very liberal family where I was not only at Asperger's, but I was the only conservative other than my father. So it's like there's all sorts of other dynamics going on regarding the fact that my grandfather that I was named after didn't like my father, who my mom chose, and such like that, and all the nonsense that happened after that and everything else. So in a way, it's like I was steeped very much in what you are describing there, but they were a lot more mature when I was growing up because I'm 64, so I'm a little older than you. So I understand kind of where you're coming from, but to live it now and see what's going on now just is more depressing for me. So I will eventually finish it to get to the point at the end, whatever it is. But in any case, I think I read enough. Did I read enough so at least I could ask you decent questions?
Well, I'll say one more thing about it. I knew when you write a novel, what you typically do is you send it to a couple of friends when you're done with the first draft just to get, a little feedback. And one of my friends said, a couple of them said, you might want to take this out or that out. That might for people a little too much. And I didn't change anything. And I knew going in that if I didn't really piss some people off with this, I probably hadn't done a very good job. I had not done what I'd set out to do. And I will say that one guy hated Campusland so much that
No, you did good then. That's right. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
he ran afoul of Amazon's 2,000 word review limit and gave it 1 star. And then he referred people over to Goodreads, where he ran afoul, I think, of their 3,000 word limit. And then he referred people over to his podcast, where he dedicated 3 40-minute podcasts to how much he hated Campusland. And he has a website where he has all this, trash talk about Campusland. And I thought, oh, excellent, good. He's from, Boulder, Colorado. And if I'm not pissing off a few people who probably are hanging out in coffee shops in Boulder, I'm not doing what I set out to do.
Well, do you want some good coffee that you could get Amazon for like $23 for 2 pounds, which is really, really good?
I'm not a coffee drinker.
Okay, well, you could give them to your friends who are, but it's Kauai coffee.
Okay.
They make absolutely fabulous coffee. So it's not very fashionable, but it's wonderful coffee.
That was a bit of a segue, but okay.
It's the only one I like. So in case it's like with the medium roast, it's whatever else, but that may sound strange, but it's the only one I like. But in case I'm more a tea drinker anyway. Like I got iced tea in here. And the elite Ivies and other people would be very offended the fact that I like this, but it works and it keeps it cold all day. So in case, iced tea is pretty good for a hot summer day or a hot May day here in North Carolina. Well, in any case, really nice meeting and chatting with you, Scott. Whatever else would be fun to keep in contact or whatever as you see fit. I hope you still like my tweets and such like that. I'm enjoying your friends regarding the NIS things, but based on educational, and I guess my pet peeve regarding educationalists and how it's affecting STEM now, it's like, do you realize in North Carolina to teach chemistry, someone could have a biology major, a biology minor, just 1 year of chemistry, biology minor, and a degree in education, bachelor's in education, and teach high school chemistry here in North Carolina.
And they probably have to write a diversity statement too.
Right. And having a PhD or a master's in those subject areas won't get you a certification, and they always wonder regarding what's going on. So, but that was something I talked about with John Ashcroft years ago when I was running for office, because I said, could you teach ethics at any high school in the state he was from? And he said, no, he couldn't, because he didn't have a teaching certificate either. So in any case, it's kind of.
I taught at Yale, and if I walked into my local high school here to try and get a job teaching, they wouldn't take me because I don't have a master's in education.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and see, that's what our kids are stuck with. So it's almost like we just have to do our jobs to do that. Okay, well, great chatting with you. I hope you enjoyed our conversation, and I just want to thank you for kind of letting me kind of interrogate you, so to speak. I hope it went well from your perspective, but I'm oblivious regarding social cues. So it's like, I have no idea what your views are, whether you're going to trash me in the next 2 hours. I hope not. All I can say is I hope it was enjoyable for you as it was for me. But I want to say thank you very much.
You're a gracious host and nice to have me.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to stop recording right now, and we'll just chat a little after.